So welcome everybody to the NSM project and Happy New Year for everybody. This is officially the start of our NSM project in all hospitals. So very exciting moment for everyone. What we thought today is to give focus on the collection of the ventilator associated events, because we need to get this correctly from the beginning, and it's critical point for the whole project. Just to reduce the echo, we muted all the microphones, so people who have comments, they can put it in the chat box, and we're monitoring the chat box. So we can collect all the information and have questions at the end. So first of all, I'd like to report to you the progress so far in hospital engagement. As of yesterday, we have 69 ICUs from 44 hospitals joined the NSM project, which is amazing engagement, and we're very happy. And all our team here, physicians, nurses, respiratory therapists, are really engaged and will be strongly willing to support all these sites to get this project going. So what's our main project? Our main project is to improve the care of mechanically ventilated patients. Now that's how we measure the improving of mechanical ventilated. How do we measure the improvement? We measure it by looking at ventilator associated events. So I hope in this session today, we'll have better appreciation what this all about, the ventilator associated events. And ventilator associated events are associated with morbidity and with mortality, ventilator associated events. Now, I'm going to be very brief because we have presentation, more detailed description of ventilator associated events. But just to put things in perspective, the NSM project has several modules of data collection. One is the sepsis bundle, and we want you to start collecting this from this week, twice every week, 2 days per week. The early mobility, if you want to participate in this module, it's optional, but the first one, NSM, is mandatory part of the project. The third one is the VAE rate, which we're going to be talking about today. And the objective measures, this data will be filled. You're going to be collecting data as we're going to speak today daily, but you will put it in the system at the end of the month. You'll put it at the end of the month. The NSM for data entry portal looks like this one, and we will not be discussing this today. We will be discussing this the next session in 2 weeks. This is the early mobility. We'll not be discussing this today. We'll be discussing this in 2 weeks from now. We will be rather focusing today on the VAE, the ventilator associated events, which will be entered on this part of the database, which is shown on the screen. I'm sorry for the light projection, but I think it will be clear in the next presentations. And also on the mortality data and the outcome data, which will be entered in this fourth piece of the database. So the VAE associated events are defined by the CDC. These are standard worldwide. And there is a detailed document. You have a link to it on the website. And all the presentation today are really based on this one. And I have only one slide to show you that the VAE, we mean by VAE, one of three things: VAC, IVAC, or PVAC. VAC is a patient who was stable and has some deterioration in oxygenation. IVAC has deterioration of ventilation but has some evidence of infection. And PVAC has a positive culture. And Dr. Saleh and Muhammad will explain this in more detail. So this is what it meant. Somebody on the ventilator was going in the right direction, and now he has deterioration. So this is called ventilator-associated event. This is the form that Muhammad is going to be explaining in detail. But I would say if your hospital already collecting data on VAE and you want to use your own form, please share it with us. It could be okay. But if you don't have it, we have been through many trials and we came up with this one. We felt that this the most user-friendly form. So with this, I'll stop. I'll ask Dr. Saleh Qasim to give overview of ventilator-associated events. Dr. Saleh.
So, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My name is Saleh Qasim. I'm an IC staff physician. We'll talk today about ventilator-associated events, definitions, and some information to take in consideration. So, our ventilator-associated events are identified by using a combination of objective criteria. The most important thing is deterioration in respiratory status after a period of stability or improvement on the ventilator. Evidence of infection or inflammation, that's the IVAC, and laboratory evidence of respiratory infection, which at the end is the possible ventilator-associated conditions. So patients must be in mechanical ventilation for at least 4 calendar days to fulfill the VAE criteria. Period of stability or improvement on the ventilator is defined as the 2 calendar days immediately preceding the first day of increased daily minimum PEEP or FI2. When I say a calendar day, that means from 12 midnight until 12 midnight. And we will go through the examples in details later on. I will talk only about definitions now. Now, what's the episode of mechanical ventilation? Episode of mechanical ventilation defined as a period of days during which the patient was mechanical ventilated for some portion of each consecutive day. So one patient could have 2 episodes or 3 episodes of mechanical ventilation. Again, the calendar day, meaning a patient who, for example, a patient who is intubated and started mechanical ventilation at 11:30 p.m. on June 1. So with a PEEP setting of 10 and from 11:30 p.m. to midnight, that's half an hour, would have a daily minimum PEEP of 10 on June 1 for the purpose of VAE surveillance. This is a good example for patients who intubated before midnight by half an hour. So the minimum PEEP will be, or FI2, minimum PEEP or FI2 will be the same setting was written in that half an hour. It will consider as 1 day of ventilator. A break of mechanical ventilation of at least 1 full calendar day, that's from 12 midnight until 12 midnight, followed by reintubation and or reinitiation of mechanical ventilation during the same hospitalization defined as a new episode of mechanical ventilation. So you need to have a full calendar day from 12 midnight until 12 midnight the next day, so we can say that the patient has 1 off day of mechanical ventilation. And when the patient will be reintubated, it will be counted as ventilator day 1. This is an example here. The first example, like you say, mechanical ventilation day number 1, 2, 3, 4, and day 6 extubated at noon. Day 7, full calendar day from 12 midnight until 12 midnight was free of mechanical ventilation. And in day 8, patient reintubated. So you will count the ventilator day as day 1. And this for the sake of determining the back IVAC and DVAC. But in counting the ventilator days, you will add. Like for the first example, he has 6 days of ventilation, the first episode. The second episode was 3 days. So the total ventilator days is 9 at the end. The other example, you can see the patient in the 6th day, he was extubated at noon, but at 7, intubated at 9 p.m. Now you can see that there is almost 24 hours between day 6 and day 7, but there is no full calendar day. So it will be continued as 6 and 7, 8, 9 day of mechanical ventilation. Daily minimum PEEP, and if I do what we talk about, this is the most important thing because our data of collection depend on this first step, which identifying the ventilator associated condition. And based on it, you will identify the infection-related ventilator-associated condition, and then at the end, the possible ventilator-associated condition. So daily minimum PEEP, meaning of that is the lowest value of PEEP, the lowest value of PEEP during a calendar day that's set on mechanical ventilation and maintained for more than 1 hour. Very important to maintain more than 1 hour. Daily minimum FI2 is the lowest value of FI2 during a calendar day that is set on the mechanical ventilation and maintained also for more than 1 hour. VAE window period, which is also one of the things that we will depend on collecting the data or to identify the infection-related ventilator-associated condition and possible ventilator-associated condition. And we should know this and understanding by heart. This is a period of days around the event day. Around the event day mean the ventilator-associated condition day. Specifically the day of onset of forcing oxygenation, which is most likely the 3rd day, within which the VAE criteria must be met. It is usually a 5 days period, including 2 days before the day of ventilator-associated condition and 2 days after, total of 5 days. Excluded the 1st and 2nd day of mechanical ventilation. What's the qualified antimicrobial day? During the 2nd step, we will look for new antibiotics. So new antibiotics will be started during the ventilator-associated period, what I explained before. So it's a day on which the patient was administered on antimicrobial agents that was determined to be new within the VAE window period. 4 consecutive qualified antimicrobial days are needed to meet the IVAC. So when the patient started an antibiotic day 1, we need 4 days. Whatever, even the antibiotic was changed in the 2nd and 3rd day, it doesn't matter. We need, since start a new antibiotic day, it should continue for at least 4 days, so we can consider it as IVAC later on. So starting within the VAE period, which is the 5 days we spoke about, days on which a new antimicrobial agent is administered count as qualified antimicrobial days. Days between administration of a new antimicrobial agents also count as qualified antimicrobial day, as long as there is a gap of no more than 1 calendar day between the administration. That means antibiotic if stopped for full calendar day, that's break the chain for the antibiotics. So put it all together. Step 1 is determine the ventilator-associated condition, which is depend on the daily minimum FI2 increase by more or equal 20, or daily minimum PEEP increase more or equal than 3 for more or equal 2 days, after 2 days of stable or decreasing daily minimum value. And just as long as we mention the PEEP, to be taken in consideration like 0 to 5 of PEEP, it's equal to 5. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 is equal to 5. This is the first step. So if we have it, then we go to second step, which depends on 3 values. Temperature more than 38 or less than 36. WBC more or equal 12,000 or less or equal 4,000, and a new antimicrobial agent. And all the 3 elements, it should be within the VAE period. You will look for the temperature for the white cell and for the antimicrobial agents in those 5 days we spoke about. The VAC day, 2 days before, 2 days after. Step 3 is the culture. According to the CDC, there is some qualitative and quantitative measures, but we will go with positive cultures. So positive culture from trachea, tracheal aspirate, positive culture from lung tissue, bronchial lavage, pleural effusion, aspirate, and again, those cultures, when you look for it, just don't depend on the date of the result, depend on the date of collection. The date of collection should be within the 5 days we spoke about before. The result could be more beyond the 5 days, but if the sample was taken within the 5 days, So we consider it, and became positive, we consider it as possible ventilator-associated pneumonia. Just one information you have to know, when you discover a VAC for a patient, ventilator-associated condition, which is the first step, that means you are free for 14 days. You will not count any VAC condition after 14 days from the first VAC. So after 14 days, if the patient is still on ventilator, you will count again and you look for VAC. And one exception excluded for this surveillance is patient on high frequency ventilator or ECMO. Those patients are excluded. When they are excluded, when they are put on those modules. Before that, they are with us. But when started, that means they are excluded. Also, patient on, just take a message that patient on airway pressure release ventilator, ABRV, you don't depend on the PEEP, you'll just take only the FiO2 measurement. This again, the new antimicrobial agents. Just to remind, it's defined as antibiotic initiated or on or after the third calendar day of mechanical ventilation, and in the VAE window period, which is the 5 days. The antimicrobial agent must have been given by one of the routes of administration outlined in the table we'll show it to you, and it should continue for 4 days. Intravenous, intramuscular, digestive tract, or respiratory tract. This is all the routes that we can take. Other antibiotics prescribed for the patient for antibiotic blocks, intraperitoneal, intraventricular, irrigation, topical are not considered. This is a list of antibiotics. It's in the CDC also. There is a table have all the antibiotics list. This is about the transfer rule. The patient, if a ventilator-associated event developed on the day of transfer or the day following the transfer from one inpatient location to another in the same facility or new facility, where the day transfer, day one has the event, is attributed to the transferring location. This is called transfer rule. Your patient in your hospital went from one ICU to other ICU. So when he went to the other ICU, the first day there, he developed VAC. That VAC is related to the previous ICU. Same between hospitals. If from hospital to other hospital and patient is ventilated, when he reached there, he developed the VAC. That means it should be communicated to the other hospital that the VAC is considered on them. Another rule also, when the patient has VAC without IVAC and BVAC, then you will document only ventilator-associated condition. If he has the IVAC, you will delete the VAC, you will document only he has IVAC. If he develop BVAC, you will remove the IVAC and VAC and only document BVAC. So the bigger picture is BVAC, the smaller one is IVAC, and the smallest one is VAC. Patient, when he is documented or being supported for organ donation, he is excluded with us. So, but before that, he is with us. Just a quick example, in some cases, like you say here in the day 5 and 6, you have a PEEP of 8, and before that, day 3 and 4, 5, you have PEEP. So this is not improvement, but it's stabilization of the minimum PEEP of this patient. And then it increased by 3. And the day 6, still it's 8, which is more than 3. So this is considered as VAC. And the other example here, you can see, we say that 0 to 5 is equal to 5. So again, we have day 5 and 6, increase of minimum PEEP by 3. So we have VAC. And in this patient, you can see that the PEEP in the first day, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth, we have 8, 6, 5, 5, 6, 6. So there is no increase of PEEP more than 3. But in the FiO2, minimum FiO2, we can see in the 5th day, the FiO2 increased by 70. And before that, it was maintained on 40. So this is, by definition, is VAC. And in this example, we can see that look into the third and fourth day. In the minimum B, we have 35 and 40. Then in day fifth, we have FI2 minimum of 70. That's increased more than 20 for this patient. So by definition, it could be a ventilator-associated condition. But remember in the definition, we said 2 days before the worsening of oxygenation, we have to have a stability or improving of FI2. But here we can see that in day 3 we have 35 and day 4 is 40, so it's worsening. It's not improving. This is why it was not counted as VAC. So the last or third step is looking for cultures. And just a message for you, any cultures result come with normal respiratory flora, normal oral flora, mixed respiratory flora, mixed oral flora, altered oral flora, or other similar result indicating isolation of commensal flora of oral cavity or upper respiratory tract, like Candida species or yeast, not otherwise specified. Other things, the Coagulase negative Staphylococcus, Enterococcus species, when identified from sputum, endotracheal aspirate, bronchoalveolar lavage, or protected specimen brushing. This organism can be reported as BVAP pathogen if identified only from lung tissue or pleural fluid. From sputum, tracheal aspirate, no. So just only the exceptions for the results of the cultures. This is the flowchart by the CDC. Anyone can go in details. And we also just make it very simple. If you can see here, this is summary of all I said now. Step 1, step A, starting from the 3rd day of mechanical ventilation or more than 4 days. If yes, if there is increase of I2 more than 20 or P more than 3, if yes, that means look for stability or improvement of FI2 or B for the 2 days period to that deterioration. If yes, then you have VAC. If no, you will go back and search again for VAC. And if you have one VAC, you have to go to the 2nd step, which is the IVAC. You look for temperature, WBC, antibiotics within the VAE period, 5 days. Day of VAC, 2 days before, 2 days after. If yes, then you have IVAC. And then you will remove the documentation of VAC and you will go and look for BVAP, which is the cultures. If you have any positive culture within the 5 days of VAE period, then you have BVAP. And you will document only BVAP, you will not document IVAC or VAC. I'm finished, thank you. And questions? Yeah, okay, at the end of the.
So next presentation is Mohammed Mtairi, respiratory therapist at the National Guard Hospital. He's going to talk about, he's been doing a lot of work on understanding the best tool to collect data on VAE, and he's going to talk about the current form that we have.
Assalamu alaikum, Mohammed Mtairi, RT supervisor. Today I will talk about our experience in our ICU2 and trauma ICU and the data collection. So as Dr. Yassin mentioned, in the last 2 weeks we tried too many forms, and finally we came up with this form, which is the easiest thing that we have, and I think it's will not take more than 2 minutes each patient. So here you can put the subject ID, hospital name, unit name, and admission date. And as you see, we have divided to 3 sections. The first one, yes, the admission date. That no, the ICU admission date. If you want to put and the ICU, the patient came from which section? The date here. So the information that need to be collected, the date and the ventilated. If it's yes, you can continue. If it's no, also you can continue to document, but you will not go to the other section. The minimum PEEP, as Dr. Saleh mentioned, the lowest PEEP in the last 1 hour, and the minimum FiO2, which came in percentage fraction. So also the minimum FiO2. The back, if you are not sure, you can put yes or no, and if you are not sure, you can consult your physician or the RT supervisor or RT senior. If you not have any access to all those, you can use our website. We have example here. When you go to this link, it will open for you the CDC Center calculator using for event, the VAE. So as you see here, he plugged the date for the 19th of December 2018. PEEP was 5 and FiO2 was 20%. On the second day, the same happened. The third day, we have the PEEP increased by more than 3. So, and the FiO2 increased by more than 30%. So now we have the VAC. You can, and the fourth date also the same result. If you calculate, if you put here calculate, it will show you that the VAC started on the third day. The BVAB, you can know if you look to the culture. Here we have an example of patient being admitted to our ICU on the 18th of December, came from ER. As you see, the first PEEP, as you see, we put the date and is the patient ventilated? Yes. Minimum PEEP was 5, FiO2 was 35. So does this patient have VAC? This is the first 2 days, no. The second, so we will not go to the other section unless we have increased by 3 or in the PEEP or 30% on the FiO2. So we have here increased by more than 3 on the PEEP on the fourth day, and increase in FiO2. So here we have VAC. Now we can go to the other section. We have VAC, so yes. You check the patient temperature, if it's more than 38 or less than 36. Yes, we have this. And white blood cells, we have the white blood cells more than 12 million, so we put yes. Is this IVAC? Yes. So then you look to your culture, if it's positive or not positive. In this case, the culture was positive, so you can put yes. So, and you will wait for 14 days until you count another VAC. That's our experience in ICU.
So can I make a comment? This is a great example, Muhammad. I think it's very illustrative. So, so as Muhammad mentioned, when you meet VAC or IVAC or PVAC, the next 14 days, you don't count anything more. You cannot have multiple VACs. Okay, you cannot have it. You don't count the patient twice as pneumonia in 2 days, for example, right? So for 14 days, we'll not count.
Yeah, and also we have, I forget to mention it, the
antibiotic. Yes. So all patients who are ventilated, we need to fill this left side.
Yes.
Minimum PEEP and minimum FiO2.
And if we have increased by 30% to the FiO2 or 3 in the PEEP, we can go to the other section, which will be the IVAC. If you are using another form or using another data collection form, please share it with us so we can make it more simple or more easy to be collected. our experience shows that each patient will take more than 2 minutes to 3 minutes. Sometimes if you already know the patient, will take less than 1 minute.
Yeah.
How long? You should wait and stable for 1 hour. Yes.
But we are looking at the minimum, not the highest.
Yes.
So for each day, you document the lowest FI2 and lowest PEEP. And this lowest has to be an hour or more. The lowest, not the highest. If FI2 went up to 100% for an hour or two, we take the lowest. What's the lowest on these days?
Of course, in the 1 calendar day, the lowest in 1 calendar day. I mean the PEEP and the FI2. It's like example, if we have from 12 a.m. to the other for 1 calendar day, we have 60, 70, 50. 50 lasts for more than 2 hours, so I will my minimum will be 50.
Yeah.
The same, I will use it with PEEP.
Exactly.
Any questions?
Next.
That's thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you.
And if you want to validate Abdullah Zahrani, if you want to make sure that you are doing the right collection data form, he will talk to you about how to validate your data.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Abdullah Zahrani. I'm working in the Quality and Patient Safety Department, and I'm project manager of this project. So it will be 4 slides, only explaining what do we mean by data validation. So data validation is checking against acceptable criteria to see whether the data that is collected for the measure is appropriate or it's correctly handled without errors from the point of collection to analyzing and final output of publishing. So we need to know that the data that we are gathering is correct and accurate. And the purpose for this data validation is for data quality, as it's fundamental to assuring the usefulness of data for quality improvement efforts, and accurate, timely, relevant, and valid information is required in order to support the delivery of safe, evidence-based healthcare. So the process that we are planning to use, for example, with the VAE form, is to have 2 persons collecting the same data for 1 week. And they should do it independently. And the data source or records must be the same. And the same sample at least. Okay. And at the end, we will compare the 2 collected data against each other. After that, we will calculate the accuracy by dividing the number of data elements found to be the same by the total number of data elements and multiplying them by 100, which is getting the percentage of what met the 2 sheets together. We are looking for 90% accuracy level, and if it's below the 90%, we need to do, if there's mismatch, we need to do a corrective action. And after that, we would look for a new sample to remeasure this validation. I will give you an example with the form that we have. So for each field here, we have specific reason. For example, if we have the date of admission and the date of discharge from ICU, this will be used to calculate the length of stay in the ICU. Okay. So I will show you the example. So if we have this form filled for the same patients independently, we will use a new form to validate by saying yes or no. So if the same data match both forms, then we will write yes. If there is no match, it will be no. A blank field, it's considered to be, if it's filled somewhere and at the other sheet it was blank, it will be not matched. It should be exactly identical. So here's an example for two data collections, and as you can see, we have accuracy. We have 16 fields here, or 16 days. So 15 out of 16 will give us 94 accuracy, and the same for the ventilated or not. Once we measured the minimal FiO2, we found a discrepancy, and this was 56%. In this case, we need to only emphasize in looking at this field and re-educate the staff who's taking this information. The overall average for all of these validations is 95%. Also, we should validate this field, which is showing the total 10 days and length of stay. Even if the patient was not, let's say, if you have a VAC and you will stop for 14 days, we look to get at least a day, and also if he's ventilated or not, to get this total ventilator days. I think that's all. If you have any questions.
Excellent. Thank you, Abdullah. So I think we'll have time for questions. So what's the plan now? So let me just mention a couple of things here. So people want a question, please put it in the chat box. So on the bottom of the form, this also exists. Again, just summarizing what has been mentioned today. So there are three types for the VAE. There are three things. One is VAC, one is IVAC, and one is PVAC. The VAC meaning patient who was stable and now has change in his oxygenation. He has worsening in oxygenation, either worsening by FiO2 or PEEP criteria. So that's VAC. This VAC could be infectious related or not infectious. So somebody has atelectasis will be VAC. Somebody has pneumothorax will be VAC. Somebody has whatever reason, pulmonary edema would be VAC. Okay, so it's really non-specific. It's changes in oxygenation status. If this is, there are evidence that there may be infection with it, it's called IVAC. If there's confirmed infection with the culture, this is called PVAC. So it's very important, I think, when you collect this, understand what's the concept. You have someone on a ventilator who's stable and worsen oxygenation, VAC. If there's an infection, IVAC. If it's confirmed, PVAC. So what we want now for the project is we want two things. One is we want people to collect data on this starting today. For each patient who is ventilated in your ICU, starting January 1st, you will have a form for him. Existing patients, we don't want to include them. We want to include newcomers, new ventilated patients for this form. So you create a new form for new patients starting today. So each patient will have a form until he leaves ICU. The second part, which is the NESAM bundle data, this is collected on all existing patients. All patients who are existing. Okay, so on 2 days per week, you go around in the unit and collect data on the ventilated patients, whether they're head elevated. They're self-explanatory, we'll talk about it next time. But we want to start collecting data on this. During the test period, the last few weeks, many of the ICUs have tried and have entered data. There's a lot of data, but now Since the project started, we deleted all this test data. So now it's ready to go and use the live data. So I think we'll open it for discussion, but I got a comment, one of the chat comment, that the system, there's some slowness, people witness some slowness in the data entry, and I'll try to explain. First of all, we're working with technical people to make it faster, but there is a reason why it's a little slow, because the system does dynamic calculation of all the variables. So all the data you are entering, it will, when you create the graphs, it automatically calculates all the data live. So that's one of the reasons why it's slow. So it will be dealing with thousands of data points. Maybe by the end of the project, it will be millions. So it will be a lot of data. So that's part of the reason. So question, how we are entering data for each patient in the system? Do we update the old entry for each patient or new entry? For the NSM, data is for each day, it's a new entry. So it could be the same patient multiple times. We are looking in the NSM bundle on that day, how many of your patients have had elevated? How many of your patients have endotracheal tube subglottic suctioning? Whether it's the same patient was there last week or not, doesn't matter. They're looking at episodes. But for this, one form will follow the patient, one form per patient. If the patient is admitted today and extubated after 2 days or 3 calendar days, should be included. Saleh. If the patient is admitted today and extubated after 2 days, is he included in the VAP? You need you need minimum of 4 days. You need somebody, so you keep eye on him and see if he got extubated, then he's not included, right? Next. Are we using qualitative or any culture? Are we using qualitative or quantitative culture, or either across all sites? So for sputum and BAL cultures, we use whatever you're using in your ICU. So if you're using qualitative, semi-qualitative, or quantitative, use that one. It's okay. Any other questions? So I think one of the key questions about this, when we started doing this VAE calculation, we thought this is going to be a massive amount of work, and I think it takes a little bit of try to understand the concept. But once you understand the concept, actually is not that complicated. This actually meant to be simple. So, and I think the current form is reasonably user-friendly. It's reasonably okay. But what we want is that you keep these forms, and by the end of the month of January, all the units will need to send us these forms. So you need to, we'll talk about what to do with them, but we need to have a copy of them so we can look at the data that is collected. So question, starting from today, only new intubated patients. The answer is yes for the VAE forms. For this form is for the new, for the new patients will fill this form. But also on the NSM bundle data, all the existing patients. We'll send a summary by WhatsApp or by email. But that's what we want to do. Yes. Anything else? So I think we're really excited about what's happening in the NSM project. We have many hospitals created already workshops or meetings, and we're going to have what we'll try to do in each of these webinars is have some of the hospitals present what they have done to get this project started. So we're going to have the team from SCACA, right? Will be presenting. Prince Muhammad, Dr. Abdurrahman Shuail will be giving a presentation on what they've done. We're very impressed. They did a workshop on the NSM. So let me just open the unmute. We have a slide. You have the slide? Okay. Prince Mit'ab. So, Dr. Abdurrahman, can you hear me? This one? Yeah, Dr. Abdurrahman. Dr. Abdurrahman?
Yes, sir.
أيوة Dr. Abdurrahman. Yeah, I can hear you now.
You hear me?
Yes, yes. So if you want to thank you very much for your great work on getting some workshop organized. I really was very impressed. This is amazing what you've done. So if you can tell us, group, about your experience, I think we'll be very interested.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, and thank you for your appreciation. And we just do same as we do in Riyadh. We make a team, and we invite also other staffs from our ICU and our trainers in ICU also, and we give many workshops to what happened in Riyadh. The thing is that can be transferred to our colleagues and our staffs easily and smoothly, and can include all the NSM bundle. We was talking. We talk that time about NSM bundle, ABCDEF bundle, and we talk also about overall NSM project and what is NSM talking about, and what is objectives, and what is our plan to do. And about the system and what we are going to do and when we will start. Second thing, this is from my side. From sister side, Sister Afifa here with me. We talk about she talk about nursing rule in the project, and she talk about to the sisters and inform them about how we can collect the data and how we enter it on the system. And we do small team for collecting data after that. Third thing, also from RT, our colleague Sister Farha, she talk about RT rule in the NSM project and RT rule in mechanical ventilated patients. Third thing, we invite one from our colleague from physiotherapist, physical therapy, and she talk about the role of physiotherapist and about the mobilization and how we can get the benefit to the patient from mobilization. The main of our talking and the main of our topic was about giving overall view about what is NSM and what we are going to do and what is the benefit and why we are doing something like this. And we are not the only one who will do that, and it will be over widespread all over the kingdom, and it will give more benefit to all patients overall the kingdom. Then, as I told before, we make small team, and we are planning, inshallah, from today to start in the project and to be active participant, inshallah, in the project. That's all. Also, we give from administration, we give them overall view about the project, and they support us, and we just that's all.
I think this is remarkable. So you've done several things, Abdurrahman. First, you created a multidisciplinary team that has all the related specialty, which is amazing. You've got your team members engaged. So you get the nurses and RT and physiotherapists to talk about their role, which is very good. And you communicated with the administration, which are really, you're talking about the basic concepts of the CUSP. These are the basic concept of creating CUSP, which will be the core of this project. So really appreciate what you've done. And I encourage all the other teams who do similar activities to share it with us. send us pictures, let us know, so we can put it on Twitter, we can put it on the whole group so everybody knows what's going on. I think there's a lot of great things happening in all the teams. What I would suggest that for the next 2 weeks is we can focus on doing training on VAE, and we're going to make all these presentations. We'll send you all these presentations. Use them freely to educate staff and test and retest and try to make things easy to collect the VAE, because I think it's a great learning experience for all of us. And imagine if we were able to manage these adverse events that happen on the ICU, measured by VAE, it will be really remarkable. But we won't be able to demonstrate this unless we collect the data correctly. If we don't do it right, we'll never know what we are doing. So it's essential. We have a good. That's why we started with the VAE. We started kind of from the end. We started from the VAE because we really have to do this correctly. And I think we're going to have multiple sessions talking about the correct data collection, validation, and as we go along. So I would suggest let's do a lot of training on VAE on all sides by this. Maybe next week we can reflect a little bit. Maybe people can share with us their experiences. We can reflect on it. And next session we'll be discussing the NESAM bundle, and we're going to hear in our hospital, our nursing colleagues have been doing massive amount of work collecting this. So they will talk about their experience in making this happen, and we'll also hear from other sites as well. Whoever wants to share his experience, just let us know. Are there any other questions? If there are no other questions, I think we're almost finishing the hour. So try to keep this session timely so people will keep it no more than 1 hour at all times. So next, again, we'll share with you summary of what we want people to do about data collection, and we'll share with you all these slides. And with this, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay, bye-bye.